Boy, I watched the countdown progress and the numbers go down to zero and then boom, reveal, and there we are. Somewhat anticlimactic to some extent, but no, real climatic, okay, so to speak. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. It's good to see you again. uh, this is the beginning of, I think, a process. Still the beginning because I'm getting used to this idea. I've had some uh, streaming, some internet connection issues, but I'm setting all that aside, and we're doing it. It looks like everything is happening at the moment, so let us do it. I'm going to, in fact, start some background music. Let's see how this sounds. Hope you can hear this, and it's mild and it's nice. Um, I've been I've really been working with the idea, what do I want to do? I've had this urge. I don't really have a desire personally. I'll say the little me, I'll put it this way, it's not that interested in doing this, but there's a part of me that wants to do this, that wants to share a perspective, and one that I just don't hear being presented. If people were seeing things, okay, the way I'm seeing things, okay, or seeing possibilities, or doing things that I feel would work toward making those possibilities occur. And I'm talking beneficial, I'm talking ways to change our world, to improve things, to improve our methods, to improve the quality of our life, everyone's life. And there are certain things that we're doing that are clearly destructive. There's certain things we are thinking. There's certain behaviors and patterns that we are perpetuating, and we have become so accustomed to them. They have become inculcated within uh, our ways of interaction, our definition of normalcy. That there's not it doesn't occur to people that, is there a better way, is there a better result available by doing something differently, or do we want to get a different result from and by everyone else to make things better? That old idea of wanting everyone else to change, and yet you sit back and, you know be who you are and do your thing. It just don't work that way. So I have a few things. I have a lot of things I want to talk about, and it's not all going to be done on in this uh, session. I think this is just a beginning. I'm starting to get the feel and the sense that, one, I'm going to do this on a regular basis, and we're going to build not just an audience. I want to build a community. In the sense, a community of thought, a community that's in accord with a certain intent, a certain vision, a certain quality of life. That's I think that we can all agree is better than the one we are dealing with right now. If your if your experience is dominated by complaints, by frustrations, by anxiety, not to mention fears and stuff, by some degree of defensiveness or some degree of anticipation of something um, undesirable in the future, so to speak, that you need to prepare for and stuff like that. Um, that's not really something that makes you feel good. That certainly isn't peace inducing. It induces stress, actually. And but the stress is just a response to a stimulus. And the stress isn't there simply to be stressed by it. Okay, the stress alters your perception of things because your stress, if you consider stress are like spikes in a signal, well, it's going to change the well, it alters the clarity of the signal, but it alters the message. So there is a picture that you can see, and that picture might be beautiful and uh, full of uh, just inviting and makes you want to, yeah, welcome that experience in. You know, you want to be there, etc. But you have, and you throw some stress points in, these are distortion points. They cause a change in the signal. They cause a change in the information. They cause change in the image itself, in the sound, in the feeling of it, and ultimately in what that particular idea represents. And something that could have been idyllic, or that is in fact idyllic without the distortion, could very well likely be very much have a totally different feel to it, totally different image to it. And you know, when you get in these situations where people have, you know, prophecies and they have these ideas of what's going to happen down the road and stuff like that, you know, something we just simply listen to it and oh boy, they've got this idea, especially if it comes to pass or something near it like it comes to pass. We're figuring, oh, it must be engraved in stone. Well, these are some of the things I want to talk about because nothing is engraved in stone. And in fact, whoever um, the seer is one in one respect. Those are the stress points. Those are the distortion points within their own consciousness, for one thing. But to the extent that anyone listens to it or gets enmeshed into that vision, is because they share the same stress points, the same stressors, the same fears, the same anxieties. And so it's by, again, that's a community. They People are sharing the same types of stress, the same types of anxieties, etc. And there's going to be a community of them. You know, the whole idea, and I'll go there now. We might as well go there now. You know, the idea of hell. Okay, people have that idea. It's something that someone imagined, someone, and they'll tell you, you know, well, I imagined it. Some people have the near death experiences and they've come back and they've actually seen it. Oh, hell is real. Okay, someone has imagined it, and for them it is. But everything that exists, every experience, everything that is conceived, everything that is perceived, is a perception based on similars of vibration, similars of consciousness. Okay, so yeah, it does exist for those who are in that consciousness, and you free yourself when you change your state of consciousness, a state of consciousness that would be um, more conducive to having a hellish experience is going to be one that is pretty, um, for lack, this is a qualitative term, but it's also for context or contrast. But I'll say a pretty dark type of um, viewpoint, okay, in life. I'll say more so um, dim. Okay, there's another one. Dim, dark, whatever you want to say it. Okay, but you could also say in terms of an absence of brilliance, an absence of clarity. Okay, because and then you got distortion, very much distorted. So that's kind of where I started talking about this. Is talking about distortions. We are operating as a society with many distortions in our viewpoint, in what we call science, within what we call government. I'll be doing this a lot, I think. Uh, what we call medicine, what we call education, a lot of distortions. And so, what we are learning, what we're passing on generation to generation, basically perpetuates a progressive degradation. Wow, that's it. It seems like uh, two negatives, but or a positive and a negative, a progressive degradation. So, in other words, a downtrend, that a continuing downtrend is what's happening. Okay, it just takes different forms, but the direction is the same. And the downtrend essentially is a direct, um, I'll say, part of, you could say, our disconnection with our understanding of ourself, for one thing, the nature of ourself. I mean, you can get through an entire education system and not have a good understanding or appreciation of what you are. I mean, the 4 million people, new beings that are born into this United States area alone every year, 4 million people. So here in early December of 2022, there, from this day to this day, in a year's time, there are over 4 million people that will be here then that are not here now. And so where are they? We have this idea that life begins when this form begins, which is one of the distortions. It's not true. We think that this form is the life that we are, and it's not. It's just the vehicle of expression of the life that we are. There's a difference. And so when we act like the form is who we are and what we are, and we start telling ourselves that, well, I can't do this because the way the form looks, or because the way I have abused and misused the form, okay, in terms of I've not treated it well, uh, then that becomes a false truth. All right. If we're operating under a false truth, it don't make it, because there's consensus to it, because you had a good amount of agreement or other people who share that point of view. It don't make it true. So these are some of the things that I see us covering, and I want to talk in today. I'm calling this the consciousness of wealth. So I'm starting off talking about consciousness, but it relates to the idea of wealth. It relates to our conceptions of it, as well. It relates to our sense of our ability to create experience, whether we want to or whether we permit ourselves to do it. And then the next part of it is knowing the steps to do in order to create it. In all of the discussions about change, about a better world, so to speak. Let's talk about a better world. The things that could be done, the things that we could achieve, and what would that look like? What would a better world look like? If you're a partisan person, you might say as well, when our group, whatever that group is now in control of this and that and the other. Okay. Well, that could be a point of view that some people might have. But what does that do for the state of the planet itself? Our environment is such that it has a very important place in how, well, the health of life, the sustainability of it. There's a group of people that think that there are too many people on the planet, because they think that the planet can't support the people that are there, and well, it's doing it, whether they think so or not, but they are still living in that idea that the planet is not able to support that, the population or the rate of growth of the population. That's that point of view. Okay, that's those people's point of view. And I'm going to say that in the scheme of things, the people that have that point of view represent about this. This is about, let's say, a gnat's eyebrow. relative to the population as a whole. But you got these people who represent a collection the size of a gnat's eyebrow to the entire population, but they have the leverage of resources, uh, media. They have the ability to put a narrative out, and I won't say control, but they certainly will influence a great amount of that narrative, to the extent that, again, there's that distortion. People are doing so much right now that they're following false truths, and it don't make it true. And so until we start realizing a truth that really isn't, what do you do when you realize that a truth that you have embraced is not true? What do you do? Do you get angry? You get what do you do? Okay, I guess I'm going to say what I think you should do, because I think that's the thing that's missing in all of these situations. Uh, First of all, you have to, not that you have to, but first of all, you need to love. You need to love yourself. You need to forgive yourself for following that advice. First of all, the point is, we, the public, have been educated in such a way to see that these activities, these ways, are actually, um, this is what makes a good human being. You know. On the other hand, it may be also part of, to keep a job. The people do a lot of different things, and a lot of them are being done for love too. I mean, sometimes people are doing like this and still doing something that they need to do for the love of someone. So, it's not for me to judge who's doing what, but a false truth is a false truth. And it will have a sway over each individual until such time as they see it for what it is, and then seek a method or way to see. That's the point. There is a remedy to every false truth, but the truth has to be seen first and then consciously chosen. So, with all that being said, I want to move to say the next step, because one of my objectives today, I certainly had my little preamble, but the idea of wealth is one that we have not tended to talk about, as I see it at least. I and and let's back up some. What is wealth? Wealth has to do fundamentally with value. Most people see wealth in the terms of money, for one thing, or the things that money can buy. But really, it's not about money. It's about people. It's what people can buy if they have enough money. First of all, if they have enough value, and if they have valued their value enough to accrue enough of it, to protect enough of it, to actually have it available to them to do the things that they want to do. So I think one of the things that I can do, in terms of suggesting and some seeds that I can plant, is to begin by redefining wealth. Okay, I consider wealth as having what you need for what you want when you need it, no matter how much. Now, having a good credit limit is not the same. That's not wealth at all. That's having credit. Here again, is consciousness. We are a society that has been so depleted in our own store of wealth. Who has, not to say that we've been depleted, we have passed on behaviors. We've adopted habits that basically passed our wealth, our value, over to someone else. It could have been to a boss, it could have been to a job, it could have been to a career, it could have been to an activity of whatever type. And we jumped in w- lovingly or non-lovingly into that activity. We had our own hopes, we had dreams, whatever they were. But the thing is, we cultivated a certain idea of our own value. And we've done this in the form of our relationships. I mean, how is it that some people, the worst thing that they could ever imagine is being laughed at by others? What would unless you're a comedian, okay? Uh, and a comedian has come to a point where they want people to laugh at them. Here's someone that makes their living by lying to people, and the people have been conditioned to laugh at these lies, and the comedian makes whatever they make doing it. It's considered a career. I lie, you laugh, and I get paid. Well, a lot of people are doing that. Okay. And what happens when that occurs? The truth gets watered down. The truth gets diluted. Those are the distortions because you start laughing at this and that and the other, and you start becoming less. It's not that you lose a sense of humor, but there's a certain sensitivity to some things, to some ideas that you become indifferent to. And it can cause more stresses than it resolves. So, value is something we hold about ourselves. But frequently, what occurs is that we attach that sense of value to the amount of money that we have become accustomed or been able to attract to us and to retain some um, ownership or some control over. I guess that's really the point. And so we got a whole bunch of that going on or not going on. We are a society where most people are operating at a level of subsistence with respect to the flow of funds coming in, the flow of value coming into them. And see, we're thinking that someone keeping it from us, to the degree that it's correct or not, is immaterial. But if we think that someone else is doing the activity of the keeping stuff from us, then we don't look at ourselves as what are we doing to create some blocks to the extent that it doesn't come in. See, if someone else is doing it and we're convinced some other person or some condition, I mean, how often and how long people talking about, well, it's my this, it's my that, it's this condition, it's that condition, oh, it's them, etc., that are doing all this and keeping me from getting what I want. You know, you fill in the blanks. It doesn't really matter what the detail is. The consistent part of that is the attitude that there is a power in someone else, somewhere else, that is making you or preventing you from having an experience that you feel that you want to have. And that idea, those attitudes, are being um, promoted all over the place. Okay, so the thing here, though, is that we want to get to a place where we see the value that's within ourselves, we nurture the value that's within ourselves, and we can do some things. There's some activities that we can do to actually build that value up. And I'm talking, first of all, it can happen in an instant because I talked about love, forgiveness, um, become your own best friend. Okay, it begins there for one thing. Start to trust yourself, and you can't trust yourself until and unless you do something that's outside of your, not your comfort zone, but your familiar zone, your zone of familiarity. When you step out of something and an activity of which you are not familiar, and therefore, by definition, are most likely not going to be comfortable with. That's where you got a chance to start changing things. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not familiar with this. I mean, hell, I've been running my mouth for, well, now 71 times around the sun. I didn't come out the womb. I might have come out the womb kicking. I didn't come out talking. Okay. But the bottom line is that I've been talking for a long time. So I'm used to talking. I'm used to being in front of a camera. But still, this is something else. I am also used to making a difference. And yet, how do you make even a greater difference? Today, it's communicating to people, it's sharing ideas, and it's planting new seeds of thinking, new seeds of ideas and possibilities that have not been nourished, they haven't been fertilized. Uh, Maybe some people have thrown some BS on them, but not that kind. I'm talking about the kind that's real, that's nurturing, fertilized with love. And so these are steps. These are internal steps in the way that you go about, I go about, we go about building our own sense of value. And then at some point in time, things come along and we'll find ourselves more open to and receptive to the idea of building wealth and finding ways that we can build wealth, and of embracing ways that we can build our own wealth in a way that's meaningful and useful in today's times, so to speak. I have done videos on Co-op Crowd, a platform that exists that works on I call it the principles of cooperation. And, as I have seen what this platform does, it also has me, because I'll tell you, I've listened to so many people that I know have, you know, I'll say turn their back on it at first. The first response was that it looks like something, and there's a wariness, there's a disinterest because it looks like something. But in either case, in most cases, the vast majority of them, there has been, um, in some cases, an unwillingness to actually hear what makes this thing unique, that what makes it actually valuable, this platform, in terms of what it does and why it's important. Because as I see it, at least, it actually helps people to answer the question that few people are talking about change, talking about global resets, talking about uh, transfers of wealth. And the people that are talking about the transfers of wealth, the people who are saying it may be looking at it going in one direction, but it may not be the direction that they are thinking. Okay, if you know what I mean. Because the people who are manipulating this stuff called money are still manipulating it, and they're still doing their thing. And most people are simply still, one, listening to those folks and following their advice, and two, waiting for them to do something on the other's behalf. And those to me are two no-nos. One, I don't listen to someone who doesn't have your interest, true interest at heart. You need to have your own interest at heart, first of all, before you can know whether someone else has your interest at heart too. And it is possible. It's not like someone doesn't have your interest. But you need to be engaged yourself. Then you will know that someone else is also engaged in your behalf as well as in their behalf. It's all right to be engaged in someone else's behalf as long as they are likewise engaged in yours. And I'm not talking about your party's behalf. I'm talking about in yours, whoever you are, wherever you are. So, Co op Crowd gives us that possibility, first of all, of redirecting a small amount of our resources, our value resources, cooperatively in a coordinated effort. And in so doing, each person that does the prescribed steps will build their own personal value, and you might say wealth. Each person does it, and it's doable by anyone. What makes it impossible to do, though, is because it's not about money. It is about value, it is about regard. And that regard is an internal, personal regard, but it's regard that begins within you, within each of us. And then it extends beyond each of us to each other. That's the difference. I have heard people say that, investor and investing is a solo sport. And yeah, it is. It's an isolated sport in the context that people are working with the resources that they have, and the systems that they are putting their resources in are basically, you're taking some of your value, you're putting them into that system, and now you've got to wait for that system to do its thing. But you're all waiting on the system and hoping the system does these things. But the system is dependent on other people doing the same thing, putting more and more of their value in to keep the system itself viable so it can move value around from the people who are putting it in to the people who are taking it out. That's what these systems do. It's what all systems do. There are no there are no exceptions to that. And Co-op Crowd in that regard is no exception either. However, it is designed with such efficiency, and I'll say also, yeah, I'll just stick with this efficiency because there's another word I want to bring out, but it's not there, okay? But it's designed with such efficiency that every member puts in I'll say a small amount. They put the same amount in. So whether you have uh, $100 or whether you have 10 million, as far as Co-op Crowd is concerned, doesn't require that. You're putting more money in. There is one example. There's one change. You can do something. You have an option of putting this amount in, which amounts to about $100 in value, in crypto value, but it's USDT or USDC. Or you can buy or get another token, and you can for a second. So you get three tokens for this $100. You can get a fourth token, and it's about $400. So there's one additional token will actually put you in a pool that gets you 10 times. It gets you what you got in the first, but it also gives you a second rider that's 10 times the first if you have that token. And if someone that joins at your invitation also buys that token, if they buy that token and you have that token, you get 10 times, you get the basic base plus 10 times more. And that's, well, the base situation is pretty cool, but that's even cooler, okay, if you know what I mean. So the point though is that this is coordinated activity. It is rewarding to the giver because each person who gives, who puts something into this system, they put a deposit into the system and they receive an in kind deposit. They put a deposit in that benefits 10 people, the person that invited them and nine others. And they will always receive, because when you deposit into Co-op Crowd, you when you join, You are essentially make that exchange every 28 days. Now, the thing about this is, so you could say that okay, it's $100 a month, or $100 every 28 days. That's $1,300 a year, or it's $400 every 28 days. So that what's that? $5,200 a year if you were got that extra token. And so you could say it and see it that way. However, the mode of activity, what you do as a member, is you receive these three tokens. First of all, these called co-op 25 tokens. You receive them and you pay it forward. You identify three people that you know you care about, who also have a vision, who also have a desire to build their own wealth, their own value, their own personal value, if you will, and in a tangible way, in a negotiable way. Okay, speak. And so if they agree to do just what you did, make the same commitment, $100 every 28 days, or uh, 400 every 28 days, and it's neither those amounts, but if you agree with the idea, I mean, I look at car notes cost over $400 for a decent car. Even not that decent car, they cost more than $400 per month. But in this particular case, I'm making a point. You find three people that feel so strongly about what they want to do, and they want the ability to have enough to do what they want, when they want to do it, no matter how much the cost. Okay, you want to buy a home. You want to buy a home. Right now, the only way you people think about it is mortgage, is loans, is debt. You're creating more debt. That's not wealth. That's indebtedness. That's indenturedness. If you want a home, you want to buy it, what is it? $500,000? Is it $1,000,000? Is it 300,000? You simply want to have enough to get what you want when you want it. In Co-op Crowd, you can actually do that. Now, is it going to happen instantly? No. What is going to happen instantly outside of thought? Thought happens instantly, but it manifests over time, and it has its dependencies. The dependencies are, what are you doing? What are you doing you're putting the thought out? What mechanism are you putting in place to receive the manifestation, the ability to have the experience? With Co-op Crowd, if you do those steps, make a deposit, invite someone who will do the same thing. In fact, invite three people who will do the same thing. You are halfway to the beginning of the journey to build your value on autopilot. The second step is that when you invite those three, now they're active, and now each of those are going to be inviting three, so 9 more people. And what you do is you basically be supportive of them, you answer questions, you do what you can to support them so that their three are active, and they also learn the process, because the three that they, or say the 9, okay, that they are inviting are now going to be inviting their threes, if you know what I mean. That's going to become 27 more people. Now it's going to be for them, their first 3 or their first 9, etc. When your 3 and their 3 are active in Co-op Crowd, it basically means you are now receiving back as much or slightly more than you put in. And so if you do this within even 2 weeks time, You do your part in 1 week, and then the three that you invited do theirs in a week. That's in 2 weeks' time. Then you actually will have been making, by the third week, you've got 27 people out there who are now doing the same thing that you did, and your income is growing. And in addition to that, when you've got those 12 that are now active, it unlocks an additional pool of return to you from the system. It qualifies you, I'll say, when you have those, your three and their three are active, meaning your three and those nine more are all active, then it opens you up to an additional level of income that's held back in abeyance until those connections are made. And that applies too for everyone. So this is something that is unprecedented. This is something that actually empowers anyone and everyone. It empowers them to empower themselves, to make that decision to do something positive. You will not be able to complain your way. I'll say that again a bit more clearly. You will not be able to complain your way to wealth. You will not be able to bellyache. You won't get wealthy doing that. Maybe if you're a comedian, but you're lying anyway, okay? But that's your job. Okay, maybe an attorney, okay, so maybe that's their job too, okay? Because truth don't seem to matter that much with attorneys. But with the profession, I can't say with individual ones, but the professions, it doesn't matter. You take a position, and it's the position, okay? You debate the position, and your idea is to hold that position. So those things aren't important. But for transforming the quality of your life, for building your own store of value, for achieving the goals, your dreams, you need to actually be truthful to yourself. You need to be loving to yourself. And what does that mean? How does one be loving to themselves? Well, what it really means, at least to me, is actually uncapping it and letting it out. See, we tend to think that, I'm going to do some videos at some point that has some of the music of the age or the time that I grew up in. I did one uh, that was a few weeks ago, and it was a song that was done in 1965 called "Love Makes the World Go Round" by, can't think of the guy's name now, and maybe Johnny something, I can't remember. But and it was really funny how uh, the YouTube algorithms, it's like that song went into a pit someplace because apparently no one watched it. I mean, I'm talking, uh, it had only 10 views. I'm going to attempt, I've had some bandwidth issues for a bit, but it has been working so far, and I'm going to continue stream this on while I'm um, talking. You see me looking off to the side. I'm trying to actually get to my back office of my YouTube channel so I can see how many people have actually watched that video. I'm kind of making my way there, and wow, it's been. Let's see if I can show this to you. It's right here. The value of love, circuit of beneficial return, and on November 8th, here it is, December 6th, and only 11 people have watched this. And according to their numbers. So I'm somewhat suspect of their numbers sometimes, but it also says to some extent, if you watch this, and it's not that I'm such a great entertainer or anything like that, but that is actually a fun, it's a fun presentation. Okay. And I go in and actually play this song, Love Makes the Girl, Love Makes the World. And because we have this dictum of what money makes the world go round. No, money don't make the world go round. It's love that makes the world, whether we acknowledge that or not. There is love that is in every activity, or there is the absence of love. And you can look at virtually any activity and determine that, wow, what's love would have changed that activity. It would have done something, and as it somehow danger if there was have any thing connection, and I don't know how my connection is doing. My doing this. Well, they're working with it. Process that we're doing. This is something that I want to. I am going to continue. Things that I am going is talk more about love, consciousness, more on a page of love. Some ways in mind. And also introduced an idea, something that I wrote um, over 20 years ago, and I think I'm not going to do it this time, but we're going to do it on next one here, and that is it's called a proclamation. I wrote something called Love Proclamations, and I it's basically an agreement that we make. And I created a couple of them. One of them is a proclamation of love to oneself. It's a set of promises. It's a set of declarations that that the person makes to how they're going to do life, what they're going to do, etc. And they sign it. Someone witnesses it. They put a date on it, but it simply becomes an agreement what the one makes, and it's put in writing. The variant to that love proclamation is a one of an agreement between two or more people. So one is a proclamation of my love, and that's the one does for two and for oneself. The other is a proclamation of our love, and that is a declaration that two or more people do, and they just agreed to this is going to be the the litmus test. This is going to be the bar. This is going to be the standard by which we do our life together, our actions together, and it can be for anything because love is a part of every part of life. So I've given a little bit of a start with this, but I think for the next time, because I'm now here for 48 minutes, and I also am seeing that, well, it's coming through. I'll see this because internet has been strange here for the last uh, actually couple days, including today. But I decided I'm going to do this anyway. I can always give myself a reason not to do something that something in my heart says I ought to be doing, I want to be doing. I know things would be better if I do these things. And so it's just let that happen. And so this is my not this now form, but foray to doing this and to helping it beyond simply just being uh, in a place of wanting to do something. I'm going to be much happiness than to not. Um, I and work out my timing and my frequency of all this. I think I'm going to be back on here tomorrow. Uh, I'm going to work out the timing of it in terms of what time of day. If maybe it turns out it's a day, it may be here. I'm still. this stuff out. But and I've got a lot of other things I want to. Oh, I actually have a whole bunch of things to present. Idea of bringing love forward, uh, outward, not upward, and make it a part because actually, um, projections, prognostications of the experts telling you, what's going to be happening or what people are trying to do in this time, 10 years away or 7 years away or whatever. You know something? Everything is all happening right here now, and everything that could happen 7 years from now is a possibility. Uh, it's not a point of no one has a hammer 2030 happen now. As such, it's a possibility. And quite frankly, if more and as more people embrace the principles, the power, the option that love is for everyone, as more people exercise it again, because it's not like it ain't there, it is there. Yeah, I'm saying, I was telling me, feeling it, but nonetheless, love can change everything. That's something that we need to know. You cannot just changes without choosing love. So, with all that said, I want to thank you for watching. My internet has been doing what it can. I'm happy it has done it as well and as long as it has. And we'll capture what we capture and be back here tomorrow, and we'll take this to the next step. I had a whole bunch of stuff set up that I was going to show and stuff like that, and I didn't do it. But it's okay. It's all good. Anyway, till next time, I will thank you for watching. And till next time, I'll say peace, be well, be prosperous. And I love you all. How do I end the stream?